And now we've got the co-main event with Kyle Daukaus and Jamie Pickett. First off, it's really, really nice to see Jamie Pickett get off to a good start to his UFC career now. He's got a 2-0 winning streak that he's riding into this catchweight bout with Kyle Daukaus. And, the big thing for me is just how good he looked in that last fight. I think that he was able to utilize all the different areas of MMA to showcase just how much better he was than his opponent. And I think for me, short notice and all these other things, it's like Jamie Pickett, there's an explanation, I think, that comes with that 2-0 record. But let's talk about Kyle Daukaus for a quick second here. I will be the first to say this, and I will say this as many times as I need to. I think Kyle Daukaus was completely thrown to the wolves in terms of a UFC fighter. You think of the debut short notice fight against Brendan Allen. So you've got Brendan Allen, then the Dustin Stolfus win. Then you've got the Kevin Holland no contest because of the headbutt. And then before that was the Phil Hawes loss. So Phil Hawes by decision, Brendan Allen by decision, Dustin Stolfus win, no contest against Kevin Holland is basically how you sum up his UFC career. Now, if I told you, just based on you knowing the UFC in 2022, that a brand new fighter and his 4 fights took on a short notice for Brendan Allen his debut, then took on Dustin Stolfus, then fought Phil Hawes, then fought Kevin Holland. Take in those 4 names as your first 4 fights in the UFC. I'm sorry to say, Kyle Daukaus was absolutely thrown to the wolves. All right, now that that's off my chest, where I see this fight being a problem for Jamie Pickett and what I was saying with his last 2 fights is Daukaus is going to be a better grappler than every fighter of those 2 wins. It's just, not only are those Darces and rear nakeds so clean for Kyle Daukaus, but he's a very respected Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. I think that is where Jamie Pickett is going to meet his match. If you look at the last 2 fights, the biggest thing that Jamie had going for him was he was able to execute a much more MMA-heavy game plan, change levels, use control time, all of that fun stuff against primarily strikers. And in this case, I think that not only can Kyle Daukaus bring his own from a striking perspective and make it a real dogfight, but as a grappler, I do think he's going to be better than Jamie Pickett. And I do think that whole level-changing game and control time, I think that's all in Kyle Daukaus' favor. And the best thing about this fight for Kyle Daukaus is the durability is there. Jamie Pickett is not one for knocking people off their socks at the UFC level, and I think in this case, you're not only going to see a dogfight between these 2 guys, but if Kyle Daukaus is able to tire out Jamie Pickett in any way and make him a little bit more of a sloppy fighter, you've seen him not do so well in those territories. You have the wins that you can feed off of, but in those fights, you can see the momentum was definitely in Jamie's favor. But in other fights, you can definitely notice that, whether he's facing a much better striker or a much better grappler, they tend to exploit him in those areas fairly easily. And that's where you're seeing Jamie kind of come into his own, where he's just a better MMA fighter than both his opponents. Now, in this case, that just isn't a factual thing, and I think that's where we're going to see this fight be very competitive. For me, like I said, man, I think Daukaus is extremely underrated just based on who he's had to fight in his first 4 UFC fights. So, unless Jamie can continue to pick those shots very smartly, use that ring IQ to avoid any real damage, and also the control time, because Kyle Daukaus is an absolute fiend for that control time. He's going to get in close. He's going to use his striking style to just get in there and make it a dogfight. So I have to go Daukaus as a -150 favorite. I just think there's a lot more going for him on this fight, because you can make the argument that this is pretty much a UFC debut type of fight as opposed to the 4 that I just listed. So let's go Kyle Daukaus as a -150, and boom, Kyle Daukaus opens as a -220, now sitting as high as a -265. Pickett +175, can catch him at a +220 if you can find it, but I think those lines very much add up with where we see the advantage for Kyle and where Jamie might need to pick up the slack over the course of 3 rounds.